Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Shayna Rattler, who is the Corporate Attraction Coach. Welcome to the program, Shayna.
Hi, how is everybody doing today?
Hey, it's a good day, and I think it's really exciting when we have new and innovative ways that we can look at bringing in new business, and sometimes you get stuck in a rut and go, hey, this isn't working, or I wish this was working better. And so I understand you've got some really neat ways that you advise your clients to bring in new business. So give us that angle that you work as a business coach and a little bit about yourself and how you work with your clients.
Absolutely. So I teach entrepreneurs how to get a yes from corporate sponsors when everyone else is getting a no. Corporate sponsorships is a $22 billion a year industry. So while it's one of the most lucrative revenue streams that you can add to your business, it's also one of the misunderstood. So I've really, I've mastered this process. I've landed corporate sponsors for myself and my clients in the past, and I've really just made it my mission to be committed to showing other small business owners how they can really infuse this cash into their business.
And so let's kind of define, you said you help business owners, stand out to get corporate sponsorships. Let's define corporate sponsorships and maybe what some misconceptions are, or what you hear most when you talk to prospective clients. And I'm sure that sometimes people think, oh, well, I am in this business, that would never work for me.
Exactly. Anytime we hear the word corporate, many of us freeze up and we start to tell ourselves, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm too small. They wouldn't want what I offer, things of that nature. But the reality is that corporations actually need small business owners in order to meet their goals and objectives. Think about how most of us watch television. Most of us DVR our television shows because we want to fast forward through the commercials. So if you're a large corporation and you're used to spending money on commercials to get consumers and get customers, that's just no longer as effective as it used to be because nobody's watching commercials. So when you think about entrepreneurs, we serve our target markets in powerful ways, both online and offline. So a corporation can partner with us and get access to our target market, and now they have unique and exciting ways to use their advertising and marketing dollars in a way that's more effective than the way that they have done before. So I like to give a simple example of, if you're an entrepreneur, let's just take a coach, for example. And you have live events that you do, you have group programs that you do with your clients, you may do telesummits, webinars, whatever the case may be. A corporate sponsor can actually partner with you on everything that you're already doing in your business to serve your clients. So that's the great thing, is not only is all this money out there that's available to us as small business owners, but most of us don't have to do anything differently than what we're already doing in our business in order to attract a corporate sponsor to give us a check in exchange for access to the people that we're already serving.
So I get that, and I love it, and it sounds exciting, but there, of course, are those things, the ghosts in the back of your mind going, yeah, that happened for the 0.009% of people that ever tried it, and those people fought and scratched and, made 400 million phone calls to get hold of one person. And so what does the process look like? And I think that most people would wonder, I still think that, you say that you can get corporate sponsorships for things you're already doing. Well, there's a lot of businesses that do very unique things. So I think it would be interesting to see what are some unique products and services and events that corporate sponsors have, thrown some dollars at to give people an understanding that you don't have to do just specific things and, it falls outside of that, so this wouldn't work for you.
Exactly. So to answer the first part of your question is, what is the process? So the very first step in the process is to make sure that you have a clear, defined target market. Now, That should be what you should strive for.
You should have that anyway.
What you're doing in business.
Yep.
But I have to say that here because that's how you're going to choose the corporations that are the best fit for you. So if I'm Coca-Cola and I have a goal to reach more women business owners this year, if I know I don't serve women business owners, it doesn't even make sense for me to reach out to a Coca-Cola. So step number one is to be able to show that you have a clear, defined target market. Step number two is to be able to demonstrate that you have impact and influence with that target market. So that looks like being present on social media. That looks like sending out regular communications to your list. That looks like highlighting any media coverage you have. So if you've ever been highlighted on a local radio show, if you've ever been highlighted on a show like yours, Mike. So the second thing is to be able to show that your brand is sponsorable. And you do that in the ways that we just mentioned. The third step is how do I find the corporations that are looking for my target market? So typically what I do is I go to Google, I type in the name of my city plus sponsorship. You're going to start to see a lot of the things that corporations have sponsored in the past. When you see that they sponsored something last year that is for the same target market that you serve, that's a great corporation for you to reach out to. And the reach out looks just like this. You find the person that's in advertising and marketing, and you say to them, hey, it looks like you've sponsored things in the past that is reaching X target market. I also serve that target market. Maybe we can partner up.
Yeah, is there anything more laser targeted to maybe find some of these corporate sponsors than Google? Because we know Google is wonderful, but are there aggregators that pull these kinds of things together to make it even easier?
There is a website called Ad Data Express. And it's basically a database of every advertising and marketing person in the United States. And so that's a great place. That's a great place to go to find out the exact contact information for the companies that you're wanting to target. I always recommend starting with the companies that are located within an hour of where you're based, because then you put yourself in a position where you actually could meet them out at a networking event and begin to build relationships. But if you don't know who to contact or you haven't been networking in places where people from corporations are hanging out, you can go to a database like Ad Data Express and start to figure out who the point of contact is in advertising and marketing, because they're typically the decision makers for something like this.
And even I would suspect that if you did the Google search, found that a certain corporation sponsored an event similar to what you would be looking to do, I would bet you could contact the event organizer or even the person that worked with them and get their feedback on, how they contacted them, because if you're not a competitor, now if you do exactly what they do, then they're not going to tell you. But if it's something where you might be able to even do some sort of a brainstorm, mastermind, reach out, collaboration kind of a call, and that might be a good inroad.
It's absolutely a good inroad, and then always asking for introductions. So I always ask people, make a list of everybody that you know that works inside of a company. And then ask them, who is the person that makes the most decisions in advertising and marketing? Would you be willing to make an introduction to them? Because anytime you're looking to it's a relationship business,
Yeah, and I've heard the stat, 85% of all jobs are gotten because someone knew someone. And so, you have to do your Indeed and Monster and Career Builder, but most of the time it's, an introduction. So maybe that's where a good LinkedIn networking profile helps out, because you can search that person that you're looking to connect with and find that, oh, hey, we're connected, or we're not connected, but we could be connected through Joe Smith because he's connected to him. Maybe I can ask Joe for a introduction even through LinkedIn.
You got it.
And I'm sure you work with clients this way, but when you're thinking about, okay, I know my target audience, I now see a handful of corporate sponsors that I might be able to connect with. Just like with anything, it's all a numbers game. So, when you do that initial outreach, maybe you have 4 8, 10, corporate sponsor targets that might possibly you would want to connect with, how many do you need to maybe make a good inroad to maybe land one? Exactly. And that's not to say that the others would never. So maybe you land one this quarter and then another one, the next year. But what are some of those numbers that way? Is it like you make one call, you get a sponsor, or do you make 100 calls and maybe get one?
Great question. So
and of course it varies, I'm sure.
Absolutely. The first step is determining how many sponsors you think you need. So let's just use one event, for example. If I'm doing a 2-day event, and let's just say it cost me $50,000 to pull off this event. At a minimum, I want to get $50,000 in sponsorship. Mm-hmm. So if you come up with, I have a sponsorship level, and you can sponsor my event for $25,000. Well, obviously, you need at least 2 of those. So I always say target at least 3 times more than what you think you need, because you're only going to close 5 to 10%.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the same, even if you're just looking at clientele. If you know to meet your revenue goals that you need to serve 5 clients a month, then you really better be reaching out to 15, because you're only going to close a certain percentage of those. So first determine how much do you need to break even. That's the bare minimum that you would want to bring in sponsors. And then target 3 times more than what you think you're going to need, and then you should land somewhere in that sweet spot. The goal is to make sure that when you walk into your event or when you start your programs, because some people might be saying, well, Shayna, I don't have an event. Well, think about all of the things that you do to serve your clients that you could partner with a corporation to give them access to those clients, and then ask yourself, what is the minimum amount of money that I need to break even every year? Because the goal is that before you ever enroll anyone into a program, before you ever sell a product, before you ever fill a seat at your event, to be in the profit zone walking into that year, because you have corporate sponsors lined up.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes people might hear the word break even and think, well, what the heck good is that? I just broke even. But when you think about, let's say that live event, in reality, that live event is your best sales presentation. Yeah. So you are putting it on, you're bringing in speakers, but it's your event and your branding is on it, and you're doing your, pitches per se throughout the event, and you've got all the contact information of the attendees. So if you had all of your expenses paid and you didn't make a dime, you still have all of the follow-up and all of the sales opportunities from that event. Is that part of what you're coaching your people to consider as well?
Absolutely. I tell them the very first thing that you have to focus on is having a world-class event that is set up to be profitable. Now, I don't teach that, but I say if we're going to be doing events in our business, we're not doing them just for brand awareness. We're doing them because we recognize that it can be a huge profit center for us in our business. So first of all, make sure that you're putting on a world-class event that is set up to be profitable. So set up to know that you know how to produce good content that allows people the opportunity to buy from you at the end of the event. So that means that everything that you make at the event is now profit, instead of it cost me $50,000 to put on the event. I sold $60,000 worth of product or services, and now I only made $10,000 off the event. So if you now get at least $50,000 in sponsorships and you sell $60,000 worth of stuff, now you have $60,000 worth of product.
And it sounds so easy to say that, well, if you get $50,000 worth of sponsorships. But let's talk a little bit on, you on your website, you talk about playing small syndrome. And I would suspect that a business owner selling whatever service, right, doing this, potential event, maybe they've tried one before and it hasn't worked, but now maybe with the backing of some corporate sponsors and the community, and they realize, well, I can put on a really good event if I had this much money. Well, what then do you tell this business owner to raise their level of expectation, where you might only be willing or comfortable charging one of your clients X number of dollars for your services, but you have to raise that awareness, because this corporate sponsor will laugh at you if you say, would you sponsor this event for $250? So where is that realm of, you better at least start off at X, but you might want to not go above Y?
Right. The very first thing is that sometimes we have to have the courage to do it scared. I have a mentor that told me, if you're going to be successful in business, you better get comfortable not knowing what's coming next or not knowing if something is going to work. So the biggest thing is to make the decision that this is something that you want to do and do it even though you're scared. But to answer your question specifically, you have to be realistic and recognize the level that your brand is at. So to your point, if you've only been in business 6 months, you barely have any followers on Facebook, you don't have a consistent stream of clients, you don't even know if you can fill a room, then you may not even be ready to ask a corporate sponsor to give you a check. Maybe you should ask them to give you an in-kind donation. But, it's a really difficult question to ask in terms of like how much to ask for, because every situation is completely different. But I would say, go with your gut. If you know that you've done an event before, right? Because the reality is that if you've never done an event or you've never done a program before, you're not ready to even ask a corporate sponsor to play because you can't tell them who's shown up, how many people you've enrolled, how many products you've sold, things of that nature. But if you can look back at the last time you hosted an event and you filled the room, whatever that looks like, it could be 20, it doesn't have to be 200. If you can look back and you say, you know what, I have 1,000 followers on Facebook. They engage with me. When I ask them to click something, they click something. Then you know that you pretty much can go in and ask a corporate sponsor for pretty much however much you want to ask them for if you're giving them access to something considerable. Now, don't invite them to a 2-hour workshop that has 5 people in it and expect them to give you $25,000, but they might give you 5 or 10. So, it's hard to give specific numbers to it, but gauge it with your gut. And then the reality is that what you really just want to get on the phone to find out if this is something that they're interested in. Because you may think, hey, this is a $10,000 ask, but you get on the phone and they don't agree with that. So you have to ask them what would create a win for you. And they're like, look, I can give you 5. What type of access and exposure can you give me for 5,000? And then you work that out. I don't like to create in a vacuum. I don't like to sit at my desk and decide what the program should be, decide what this should consist of. I like to talk to a person, find out what their goals are, look at finding out what they're trying to accomplish, and then we co-create something that's going to be a win-win for both of us.
That's interesting in that I was thinking about asking the next question, which is we've talked about events. Well, some people listening may not do events online or offline. And the worry may be, I don't have those 4,000 Facebook followers and I don't have an experience doing this event where I sold 300, 400, 500 seats, and that one event that I did where I filled 20 seats, what corporate sponsor is going to give me anything for that matter? So what are some other examples of sponsorship opportunities other than events that someone could go, ooh, now that one I could sink my teeth into?
Right. So let's take a product company. Let's say you sell a widget. You don't have live events. You don't have programs. You just sell widgets. But you have a website that you're getting new views on your website every day, every week. People are coming to your website because of whatever advertising you've done. You can actually highlight your corporate sponsor on your website. And that can look a couple of different ways. Maybe it's just, they partnered with me this year. It's XYZ company in partnership with Best Buy. Or you could have a section on your website that is the Motivational Monday brought to you by Best Buy. In that column, either you can put some motivational quotes out there, your partners can put some motivational quotes out there, and your sponsor also has the opportunity to have a call to action on your website. So you may not have a program, you may not have events, but you may have a website. You may communicate with your database through emails. You may communicate with your followers through social media. So it doesn't have to be the traditional event sponsorship. And the reality is that nowadays many corporations are shying away from just sponsoring the event because they realize that although a live event has the largest amount of engagement, if your event is only 1 or 2 days and that's all the exposure I have to your target market, that's not enough time for me to convert them anyway. So if you say to me, hey, I'm in front of my target market all year long through my newsletters and through my social media. Now my tribe gets a chance to see you every week, every month, every day. Now they can go, Now I can see how this could be a return on investment for my $10,000 check that I gave them, because I'm going to be in front of their target market every single day, every single month, and not just at their live event.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is that shelf life, that longevity, because it's kind of like online advertising with Google's pay-per-click or Facebook ads. That ad campaign is potentially really powerful for you, but it only lasts as long as you're feeding the machine and paying them money. And then you better hope that where the click takes them is impactful. But the point is, if you have something that's got some evergreen longevity content that is always out there, online or offline, now all of a sudden that becomes an asset. And I call them, authority positioning assets, because anything online, think about like what you said, being on a specific podcast or radio show, or even a really good, well-received LinkedIn article that you post on your profile, and then you get some of your contacts, you promote it yourself and say, hey, I just wrote this article on, and maybe in parentheses, it's an article on something that a corporate sponsor may be interested in, but you're putting it out there. You're getting some of your contacts to engage with it, like it. Well, now this corporate sponsor contact might go, ooh, that was a good article. Oh, they got some engagement. And so it's those kind of things. I think that mindset shift needs to be not this one-off. Now, if you do an event and it's wonderful, that's great, but maybe that's step 2 or 3. You have to start off with something like you were mentioning, with maybe some sponsorships on your Motivational Monday, your podcast, your whatever the case might be.
Yeah. I jokingly say, Mike, if it's legal, it's sponsorable. So I hope what your listeners hear is that it's really limited to your imagination. At the end of the day, sponsors want access to your target market. So get creative. Think of all of the different things that you're either already doing or that you could do to bring your target market together, and I guarantee you that it's sponsorable. If it's legal, it's sponsorable.
Yeah, I really love that idea, and it's kind of like the more unique and niche that it is, the more you will stand out, yes, to both your target audience, but also to that corporate sponsor prospect, because maybe they get hit up all the time with your certain kind of widget or your certain kind of event, and it's like, oh, good night, another one of these. But if you come at them with something unique, it might catch their attention just enough to take your phone call, and then you've got your moment to shine. And maybe if it's that unique thing, maybe it's like, okay, now wait a minute, tell me more here, because that's interesting, and I like your approach to whatever that might be. Can you think of something where one of your clients has done that unique approach and it's caught some attention and they got something sponsored that you might not have thought, ooh, wait a minute, that might not have thought of that one. That's a really unique hit.
Yeah. I had a client that lives in Houston, and she was telling me not that long ago that she was getting a golf tournament sponsored. Now, that's pretty standard in and of itself. However, and this was like a golf tournament for affluent people. So she contacted Porsche and asked Porsche if they would be willing to partner with her to it's on this event. And it didn't have anything to do with the golf tournament per se, but the night before the golf tournament, she hosted a VIP reception for the golfers and their significant others that were going to be participating in the tournament the next day. And she had them meet at an off-site location, and the Porsche dealership sent a fleet of Porsches to pick up the golfers and their significant others and bring them to the VIP reception.
Nice.
Now, they not only did that, but the check that they cut her covered all of her expenses for the VIP reception. Now,
which made the event look 10 million % better than it would have.
Exactly.
And that right there is super creative.
And for her, here's the other thing that I wanted people to understand. For her, it elevated her brand. Now, again, this golf tournament was not even her golf tournament. It was just a golf tournament that she was participating in. And she got the idea of how can we make this golf tournament even more attractive. But she was smart because she recognized I didn't really care about the golf tournament or making the golf tournament jazzy, but I wanted to be able to elevate my brand by saying that Porsche was one of my corporate partners.
Yeah.
And so now that she can associate her brand with Porsche, she can leverage that in so many ways. Now when she's trying to speak on certain stages or she's trying to get invited to certain circles or things of that nature, when people go to her website or her LinkedIn profile and check her out and they see that she is associated with Porsche, now all of a sudden her brand gets a completely different level of attention than it did when she didn't have that association. So it's about how can we have more impact. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of think it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that it's something that you put out there, you made it happen, and then the next Porsche out, kind of a brand, but a brand similar to them, it doesn't have to be car, but then she might go to whoever, IBM, and say, hey, you know what, I worked with Porsche on this, what if you guys provided, and then now it's so much easier to get the next one because you got the first one.
Exactly. And even if Porsche didn't cut her a check, it still puts her in a position to go to somebody the next time and get a check.
Yeah, I mean, from in that one example, we don't have to get into much more detail, but I would have hoped that Porsche corporate would have cut that deal and then hooked her up with the local dealership that sent 15, 20, 30 salespeople to pick up all of the VIPs and just be there to answer questions. And now all of a sudden that connects them up that way. And so there's so many benefits to both parties. And then even if there wasn't a check involved, even if it was just being able to use Porsche's logo on the event and whatnot, now she has the ability the next time she's doing something to say, hey, I work with Porsche. Well, first of all, they might want to work with her again because the event turned out well, but then getting another brand similar to them becomes easier, and it just becomes that snowball effect.
Exactly. That's how this thing works.
Well, I love it. I think it's really super interesting and unique, and I would like to ask, what do you want listeners to do to find out more? Do you offer some, a free consultation or an overview or a industry report, something where
Absolutely.
They might be able to learn more of how they can take advantage of your product?
Absolutely. So I have a free ebook, and it's called The Top 50 Insider Secrets to Landing Corporate Sponsors. So I have 50 tips on there that are all of the different things that you can do to get yourself in position to land a corporate sponsor. And they can access that at corporateattraction.com/secrets with an S. So it's corporateattraction.com/secrets with an S.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. I loved getting to know you and your business, and I always love hearing unique and inventive ways to get business done. So thank you, Shayna, for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.